I was going out with these urban explorers into all of this subterranean infrastructure underneath London. And after we went into those sewer systems, then we got into electricity tunnels. Then we started getting into bunkers. So
how illegal is this
dude,
stuff?
these are like layers under the city. So imagine there's like, 5 layers under the city, right? So we go from those sewers to the electricity tunnels to the infrastructural systems to the bunkers. And then we started getting into what are called deep level systems, right? And they're very similar to the bunkers that the U.S. government is building here that they call DUMBs, deep underground military bases, right? We started getting into like serious critical infrastructure. Like we were like inside the telecommunications trunk for all of the United Kingdom, and at this point we're like 100 feet underground, 120 feet underground. We were walking through this tunnel about 100 feet underground, and one of the explorers I was with is like, there's a manhole above us. I was like, what do you mean there's a manhole above us? We're in the deepest level right now. And we pop this manhole and a camera swivels, and stares at us. I'm like, oh God,
They've hidden this from the world. Africans were present in South America 3,000 years ago. This is changing everything we know about our ancient past and who our ancestors really were. The Olmecs, who lived in present-day Mexico around 1200 BCE, the first civilization to create colossal stone heads, some weighing well over 20 tons. That's 20 small cars. They all depict faces with distinct African features. Columbus was not the first to contact the Americas. There was transoceanic contact or travel long before him. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The Olmecs, like many other civilizations during their time, had a profound understanding of astronomy and mathematics. They created one of the earliest known calendars and used a complex mathematical system that even predated the Maya. The Olmecs were also master engineers, even by today's standard. They built sophisticated drainage systems and used techniques we don't understand today to transport massive stones over great distances. Here's the next level of the iceberg. The artifacts found in Olmec sites are strange figurines and tools made from materials not native to the region. This proves an ancient, wide-reaching trade network. Some of these items connect to ancient cultures in Europe and Asia. The symbols and writing found on their artifacts are still undeciphered to this day, but they bear a striking resemblance to other ancient writings around the world. This leads us to believe that there was a global network of ancient advanced societies.
Now, this is incredible. Have you ever experienced deja vu? What if you had actually already lived that moment? The theory put forward suggests that our consciousness has already lived different lives before, and when we die, the bright light we see at the end of the tunnel is actually rebirth into the world. As a baby, it is said that between the ages of 1 and 3, memories are being erased from your previous life. That's why we don't remember anything at that age, and sometimes not all memories are erased properly, so the deja vu you experience would therefore be truly real.
The biggest conspiracy theories on Earth. Guys, what is going on in this? We are going to be looking at some of the biggest and craziest conspiracy theories in the world and finding out, could it be real or maybe not? So, let's take a look. So today we're going to have a look at the moon landings hoax. Now, this is a huge theory. Like, people have been speaking about this for years and years and years. Theory that people believe claims that none of these landings actually happened. First of all, let's look at why it could have been faked and what evidence there is. First of all, the big one of the flag blowing in the wind. And of course, there's no wind on the moon, so how the hell was the flag blowing? Now, next up, there was no stars in the sky on the picture of the moon landings, which is a bit strange. However, of course, technology wasn't as good back then, so maybe it wouldn't have picked it up. Another thing is that the lighting and the shadows looked very, very strange on all of the photos. Like, it just didn't look right, almost looked like it was filmed in a studio. Another big one, this is mad. So there's the footprint, of course, the famous footprint which is on the moon. However, this footprint doesn't actually match up with Neil Armstrong's suit. Like, they compared them both and it doesn't match up. Now, let's take a look at some evidence for why it may be real and not fake. So, for one, technology back then, of course, wasn't amazing. It probably wouldn't have been able to make it look extremely realistic just in a studio. There are things that could have caused the flag to move, there are things that could have caused the footprint to look different over time or whatever. Camera quality wasn't as good back then, so it may not have picked up all the lighting and the stars as efficiently as it would do now. So it's kind of 50-50 of did it happen or did it not, but I mean, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think.
The Vatican controls the largest private archive on Earth, miles of documents, thousands of years of history, and almost no one is allowed inside. It's called the Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly known as the Secret Archive. Despite the name change, the contents remain mostly sealed. So the question is simple. Why? The Vatican has existed for nearly 2,000 years. During that time, it outlived empires, survived collapses, and quietly absorbed ancient knowledge from Egypt, Greece, Rome, and beyond. Many early Christian texts were never included in the Bible. Others were labeled heretical and destroyed. Entire belief systems vanished. What survived became official history. What didn't was erased. The Vatican decided which texts were copied, which stories were taught, and which versions of events became truth. Even today, researchers are denied access to vast sections of the archive, including documents related to early Christianity, pre-Christian civilizations, and ancient catastrophes. Some historians believe these records may describe a very different past: lost civilizations, advanced ancient knowledge, global disasters that reset human history, information that doesn't fit the accepted timeline. And there's precedent. The Church once suppressed heliocentrism. It punished those who challenged doctrine, and it rewrote theology as power structures shifted. So the idea that history was curated is not speculation, it's documented. The real mystery is not whether the Vatican preserves knowledge, it's whether it also controls it, because if ancient history was filtered, simplified, or rewritten to maintain authority, then what we call the past may only be a version we were allowed to keep. And until those archives are fully opened, we'll never know how much of human history is still locked behind closed doors.
Does this really look like progression to you? Does it suggest that we're the peak of human civilization? Or have we in fact massively regressed and replaced architecture which not only served as works of art, but were comprised of geometric perfection, with large, brutalist boxes that we see today, perhaps purposely designed to demoralize us and stunt our creativity? Because the old world buildings may have been more than just pleasing on the eye. They could have been serving a practical function and being connected to an entirely different energy grid than what we use today. This could have been ether energy channeled from the Earth's atmosphere, an energy source that Nikola Tesla may have rediscovered before being sabotaged by JP Morgan and other elites of the times, rendering us stuck in this present dystopia.
There's nothing new under the sun, and anything you think about doing, it's already been done. So all this time, we think that we're progressing, but really, we're being held back. After the fall of the Tartarian Empire, they hosted these world fairs where they showed off their newfound technology, and for a little while, we was able to use them. Everybody's talking about electric cars and electric scooters, and this ain't new. This is old technology that they've suppressed. They even had electric charging power stations. Why hold something back and then bring it out like it's new? It's about money, it's about control, it's about imagination, and it's about freedom. All these things they don't want you to have.
The Great Reset Tartaria Sky.
Look closely at this photo from 1813. It's the city of Krakow in southern Poland, flooded. But this flooding is not normal. It can happen after a hurricane or cyclone, but much bigger. Take a look at the surrounded building that is half submerged. The flooding has been so bad that other nearby buildings are almost completely submerged. So what could have caused this flood in 1813? It was caused by the Great Flood of 1802 following a 600-foot tsunami, and the photograph shows the waters receding 11 years later, and the buildings that were underwater beginning to appear on top. Some have doubts, saying that the camera was invented in 1839, how they photographed the flood of 1813. Well, the camera was invented long ago during the Tartars, and after Tartaria was decimated, destroyed by the Great Flood of 1802. The camera was just reintroduced by parts that control the world today. So the photo in question was taken from the roof of another building, or more likely, from a flying object, for example, a balloon, which was used a lot at the time, and of an individual who survived the Great Flood and had a camera with them.
Me contem o que vocês acham que é isso.
Okay, so Chris Bledsoe captured an image of an orb with a message inside, and the message is 0320, which is the equinox of 2026. So what is this? Is this a sign? What type of message is this? This is something pretty interesting if you think about it, right? Because there's many videos of orbs out there, and I've never seen a message or some type of numbers inside of an orb before. Now, I think that this is probably some type of message or coding message from another, entity, like a trans-dimensional entity or something like that. So, what are they trying to tell us? Like I said, if this is real, which there's a video out there, and apparently he took the video, and there's images too. This is pretty interesting.
Hello. Aren't you beautiful? Look at those colors. Passing a star. Are you disappearing? Oh, lovely. Come back anytime. Nice.
Tekrar bakalım. Evet, suyun üzerinde yine. Ötesi yapma. Ne mi yapacaksın şimdi? Su var, belli suyun üzerinde su.
Have you heard of world fairs? World fairs could be some of the most worrying events in the entire history of mankind. They were gigantic, large-scale events with massive buildings. In the case of the St. Louis Fair, there were more than 1,200 buildings. In fact, some of these were the largest buildings recorded in history at that time. Which leads to the question, how did they create such an event in record time? In just 1 or 2 years, how were the buildings, canals, roads, walkways, columns, arches, and pillars all constructed? How did they build it all in such a short time with such an absolutely spectacular appearance? History tells us that everything was made of gypsum and hemp. But in modern times, these events would cost several $100 million according to their original expenses. For temporary buildings, why did they have lightning rods? Why were they so massive? Many believe these were already existing cities that were found and then destroyed. Let me know what you think in the comments. Were they really temporary, or are they hiding something much bigger?
So if we look at the mass size of these books in the 1800s, it doesn't make any sense why they were this big. These books were bigger than humans, and they were finding them all over the world. And so you then think about the buildings that were made, and we talk about how specifically designed they were made and articulately made, like the pyramids. These books were written by giants, and what you'll find is a lot of these books are written in an ancient language, and that was the Tartarian language. And in some of these books they couldn't actually understand what they were about, but there was one giveaway. There was maps, and Tartaria was found in the maps. So then you start to put the pieces of the jigsaw together. These mass technologically advanced buildings produced in the 1800s, supposedly with a chisel and hammer, by people on horse and carriage. Or is it the fact that there was an ancient civilization relating to Tartaria and giant people who actually harnessed the ability of frequency, just like Nikola Tesla referred to? And they actually got rid of them because energy was free and everybody was healthy. And so then they would not be able to profit off of that.
That's why they hide the true answer to this question.
Have you ever looked at a star fort from above? Not a map, but a drone shot.
They're perfectly symmetrical, like giant snowflakes made of stone and brick.
Exactly. There are thousands of them, from Italy to Japan, even in the middle of the US. They tell us they were defensive forts built in the 1600s to deflect cannonballs.
Cannonballs? That makes zero sense. If you're defending a city, you don't spend 20 years building a perfect geometric fractal. You build a wall.
So what are they?
Look at the patterns. They match somatic frequencies. When you vibrate sand on a metal plate, it forms those exact star shapes. These aren't forts, they're resonators.
Resonators for what?
Atmospheric energy. Most of them are built near water, aquifers, or rivers. They were designed to pull energy from the ionosphere and distribute it.
But they have cannons.
Look at the photos from the 1800s. The cannons are tiny, misplaced, or added later. We found these structures and repurposed them as forts because we couldn't figure out how to turn the power back on. We call it the Great Reset. Someone turned off the grid, and we've been living in the dark ever since.
So they used to actually have devices where they could communicate with each other through these glass sphere objects, through the power of the ether. And bear in mind, this was in the 1800s. They had far more advanced technology than we do have now. And the buildings back this evidence up as well. They essentially had FaceTime in the 1800s through these devices. Not to mention, they could create free energy through the buildings and the shapes of these buildings, through those big antennas that you can see on the buildings that would harness atmospherical energy through metals like copper and mercury, specifically red mercury. So then you have to ask the question, where did all this technology go? And why did they remove this free energy technology? And you have to understand that they removed this technology because almost all of it utilized free energy from the ether as the fifth element. And the ether was available to everyone, as the ether is infinite and it was free. But the Rockefellers could not profit from the ether because free energy cannot have a profit to it. So then during World War I, all of these buildings alongside the ether were destroyed, and then all of the documents about the ether were completely fabricated. And that's exactly why you have the electricity you have today, because the profits are extremely high and they can actually sell it, unlike the ether.
Milan Cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral, the Windsor Castle, St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, Austria, the Cologne Cathedral, the Tower of London, and Edinburgh Castle. They all have one massive thing in common. What is it? All of these places having this one thing that shows that the mainstream history is not giving us the full picture, and it's not even close. Massive palaces all over the world, constructed with perfection, and not one of these structures was built with a toilet. We are told that humans could ride on their donkeys without a light bulb and without a road and construct palaces in every single country. Yet they had to go to the bathroom in their yard and wipe with a leaf. No, we're living in the ruins of the previous civilization. A civilization that either didn't use toilets at all, or this group of people were so advanced that they used a form of plumbing and sanitation that is completely misunderstood to us today. A way to remove the waste so that it's not inside your house. It was repurposed by the people who came after. What was repurposed? Not the toilets, because they didn't have any. So many of these structures, in my opinion, are repurposed, and they now need a toilet. We have shown that by using the organ in these cathedrals, it resonates with the bones below the floors. We are told that humans built the Milan Cathedral but couldn't figure out how to manage human waste. We are told that they just put their waste in the streets. They tell us that they dumped it out of the windows with a bucket and wiping with their hand. This is the story. This doesn't translate to constructing perfect palaces with architectural designs that blow our minds today. Now, thinking logically, if you could build this, and this with perfection, zero mistakes, and they're still here today, then you would be able to design a sewer system that we use today. And we all know it. No running water, yet constructing granite with precision. If you don't have running water, it's incredibly dangerous for the entire population. You have filth everywhere, diseases. Nobody is bathing. And according to the mainstream history, we are all told that ancient Rome, Greece, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley, they all had running water, public baths. The Romans supposedly had aqueducts, underground sewage. All of this over 2,000 years ago. This is what we are told. And then the year 500 hits. And that technology, it just vanishes. It's just gone. Nobody has running water anymore. No pipes and no baths. Just ragging themselves off over in the pond. And this carries all the